Okay. Well, welcome everybody to Rise, Empower, Dream podcast that was created to help you have a more fulfilled and powerful life. I'm Camilla Durand, your host, and we're here today with Ava Mucikyan. Did I say it correctly?
Mucikyan, yeah, you got
Mucikyan,
it.
thank you. And Ava and I have known each other for years. She is a staple in our community here in Las Vegas. She owns a beautiful, beautiful business called the Salt Room, where she is committed to help others heal. And now she has a new project. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself, her wonderful journey, and what she's been up to. Today's concept, I want her to talk to us about self-love because she is a master on that topic. Welcome, Ava.
Thank you. What an introduction. I wouldn't say I'm a master on that. I'm still on a very long journey of myself on that. So, um,
We are all, but you're pretty advanced, so that's why I invited you to be a part of this podcast today. And you're my first guest, so I'm very honored to have you here today.
I'm very honored to be the first guest.
Thank you. And for sure, you will participate in future episodes as well, because you have lots to share and to talk about.
Thank you.
So where would you like to start? Talk a little bit about your journey, how you went from corporate America to become a very successful business owner. I know you experienced the dark night of the soul once in your life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh gosh, there's enough time. Do we have enough time?
I don't know. We'll try.
Well, I just feel like that I've lived already about 3 lifetimes in one. It's just been so long, right? And I'm what, like 42?
Okay.
But I'm born and raised in Armenia, moved to DC for college, and then moved to Vegas for life, and restarted life about 3 times. And here we are, fresh. And I always say you never start from scratch, you start from the experience, right?
That's
So
true.
here we are. I feel like what I would call the best part of my life so far, and I'm really sort of excited about this season of my life. I feel like I'm just starting to live, really.
It's
Because
wonderful.
when you're young, something's always missing, right?
There is, yes. Well, as adults, for many people, there are also things that are missing.
True. I mean, if you don't face, if you don't get curious, and a lot of people call this self-love thing, this self-care journey thing, it's not a mysticism. It's about getting curious about what you like and giving it to yourself, right? So
Mhm.
it's truly not, it's less tolerating every year. It's more enjoying life every year. It's shedding everything that doesn't serve you every year. It's just developing healthier habits that make you feel good every year. It's all these little seemingly little choices that bring you to this, phase of life where you like, I would say a word, but it's not appropriate for podcast.
No, you can say it. Be yourself, please. Be authentic.
Let's say unfuckable, right?
That's great. You're so cute. And what you've been saying about it's, one little step at a time, shedding what no longer serves you, freeing yourself from all this weight that you've been carrying for so long, really connecting to who you truly are. Do you think that that is also connected to the ability to be present in our lives?
Absolutely. You will never figure out anything about yourself if you're not present with it, right? You have to be present with every painful emotion. You have to be present with every dysfunctional habit. You have to be present with every moment that brings you joy. All of this, being present is the core of everything. And it's a lifelong, it's a concept I say that takes a second to learn and a lifetime to master.
I
So
love that. Yes. So tell us a little bit about your transformations. You said you're living your third life in this lifetime.
I'm like a
And
cat. I got 4 more to go.
well, six. If we do cats have 9 or 7
I
lives?
don't know. I figured it's
Whatever.
7. Probably not. But then I have a lot more than I thought.
There you
Hey.
go. There you go. So do you think that with all these transformations that you've been through, how has your self-love been following with all these transformations?
Honestly, self-love has been the core of every one of these transformations because every decision that you make to progress in life in one way or another is geared by self-love because you choose yourself versus this, you choose yourself versus that. And every time you choose yourself versus whatever that may be,
Mm,
is you coming back to you by loving you.
mhm,
And so let's take an example, right? Like you're in a relationship that's not serving you, you tolerate, you make it work, you make it work. And then one day you're like, screw it, not doing it anymore. Because why? Because you decide to love you more.
mhm, mhm.
That's just one very simple example. Same way when you're in a job that's draining your soul and you're not, happy either financially or physically toxic environment or whatnot, and so you tolerate and you tolerate, and one day what do? You choose you come back to love.
Mhm.
And every situation that when you pour love into it, and sometimes it's self-love, then it transforms. I mean, it's it sounds very magical and mystical, but in reality it's simple. It's not easy, but
Mm.
it's simple.
There has to be an intention,
Correct.
right? So how do you pour self-love? How do you pour love into you? How do you make these choices? Because I know they're not easy to make. Have they have have you found choices that have been the best choices for you that have been self-love choices easy to make?
Well, it's a very layered question. Um, I mean, it's easy once you make up your mind and you're ready, but the path leading towards this moment may not always be easy and short, right? So, both these examples we talked about, this could be decades simmering
Okay.
and waiting to happen. And then one day you just do it. But just because the decision was made, the action was made in one day, doesn't mean the process was a one day thing, right?
Right.
It's which is why I call this life an English 101, right? Like the perspective I usually give, I say, you're in a life, your soul is in a life university, which usually when you go to university, there's many years, there's many classes, there's many majors, you kind of shift and change until you become who you need to become, not even talking about the major you choose. And then so this lifetime that you came in this 60, 70, 80, 100 years, whatever, is simply just an English 101. You can only tackle this many, lessons in this one small, you know, seemingly big,
Lifetime.
very small, because it just loops you right back until you learn and move on, which is why we're given this time. There's no rush to get everything done and learn everything by 10.
Right, right. There's no deadline.
There's no deadline. And honestly, as long as you learn the lesson before transcending, I think you've done a great job. Nobody's sitting there judging and grading you.
How do you know you've learned the lesson?
When you get the sense of peace and that situation and that kind of the similar kind of situations, not just that particular, but similar kind of situations don't hold power over you. Um, I always, one time I met one of my friends, that I met a few years back. I told her my life story, and then I said, but I'm done. I moved on, right? And then she said, let's see. We just met, and you spent the last 2 hours talking about this issue. And I'm like, you're right. The fact that it's still rolling like a tape in your head, or you still talk about it, chances are it's still, as much as tell yourself that you kind of transcended the experience, it probably still holds power over you. But the minute you can speak of it as a past event in a lighthearted tone, something that just was an episode in your life, not your entire life,
Mhm,
the
mhm,
minute you don't feel negative emotion talking or thinking about it, the
mhm.
minute you're at peace and you figured out why and what, and it had to happen, the reason it had to happen, so it can be whatever. I feel like that's the time when that's it, right? Like you kind of learned this one lesson and it cannot repeat because you now have too much awareness to go back into that. You vibrationally elevate and you will never be a match to that vibrational level of you. That was a different you.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it's important for us to connect to our emotions And this is something that I've been making a lot of videos about, how people repress their emotions just because our society, the Western society, has a difficult time with showing what we call negative emotions. So sadness, anger, fear, like we always have to put a beautiful smile on our face and a brave face and just keep on chugging along. I think that for us to experience true self-love and feel the peace that you're talking about, we eventually have to eliminate these feelings of regret, resentment, sadness, anger. And how do you do that?
Well, eliminate is a strong word because, different situations are going to bring these emotions up again,
Right.
right? So, um, I used to fight emotions too.
Ah,
I used to
okay.
not want to feel certain emotions, and then you become a mother and you see that, these emotions are inevitably coming up in everyone. And sometimes engaging in them way too much
Mhm.
can, kind of make you get lost and lose clarity for a second
Right.
there, right? But if we just change a perspective just slightly, and instead of thinking of emotions as this big bad wolf that's coming to get you,
Mhm.
or something that we need to run away from or fight against, and just simply look at them with curiosity, with literally childlike curiosity. When you have a child in the beginning, when you get angry, first the child doesn't understand. In the early ages, the child doesn't understand. Like Ethan used to look at me like what's happened? Why is mom angry? Right? It's just slowly that they start realizing, oh, this is bad because there's consequences when she gets angry, right? So if you start looking at your emotions with a childlike curiosity and simply ask the question, what is this emotion trying to tell me
Uh-huh.
or teach me? Um, Answers are usually pretty simple, and you may not get it right the first time, but if you just keep staying open and curious, you will probably figure out where it's like a navigation system, right? Emotion is like a navigation system. It's trying to steer you a certain direction. Like
Mhm.
if you're feeling anger, you're probably sad. And this is probably the time to be more vulnerable than to be angry. Because I struggle with that to this day, right? It's easier to get angry than to be vulnerable.
For sure.
Or if you're feeling jealous, like it's probably your soul telling you you're created for more, you can do more. It's just this mirror like situations where people come to tell
Oh,
you and show you what you are and what you can be. You simply have to dig deep and figure out what direction you need to choose to release this emotion, right? That way, when you feel the release of the emotion is when you know you're on the right path.
right. Yeah, you touched on a beautiful point there, Ava, that I had never thought of this really. When you get jealous, your soul is communicating with you that you were born to do more, to live a bigger life.
Right.
And I think that being lazy, or sometimes it's not about being lazy, it's about not believing in yourself, not
I
believing
love being
that you,
lazy. I mean, it depends how you look at it.
right, lazy can also be something
Oh my
positive.
God, I love being lazy. Just I don't have time for it sometimes.
Yeah, remember when I first met you at that panel that we participated a couple of years ago, you said that you loved laying on your couch and looking at the ceiling and just
Yeah.
contemplating things and
Unfortunately, that lately I've been passing by that couch and really like shedding a tear every time I see it. We
yeah,
don't get enough R&R anymore.
that's so funny. So tell me a little bit about understanding that you can be bigger and start to believe in yourself. How is that process? Because I know with your story, you've probably been through this moment, through this question. Am I ready to take the next leap? Am I ready to be who I am meant to be? Am I ready to really be as big as I am meant to be?
Oh boy. I've sat on that couch far too long. There's too many layers that I needed to go through to
Mhm.
be ready for that next level. And some days I go back and I say, could I have done it quicker? Could it have happened sooner? And I just can't seem to have the correct answer. However, I don't think it could have, because when the time for something comes, you usually feel this surge of energy, right? And unfortunately, I used to think that if you just lay on the couch long enough, it will come. The trick is you also have to do the work, okay?
Ah, God
Like
will help you as
waiting,
long as you
you know,
help yourself.
people have this illusionary understanding of how manifesting works, and they think if they just sit on the couch and imagine their perfect life, life will come to them. And it will, but there's like this small part most people miss. It's like you will get a nudge, you will get a feeling, you will get a knock on a door, you will get an email, but it takes you, it requires you to take an action and to push through sometimes what seem to be very dense energies,
Mhm,
right? Sometimes when you want to take that, especially when you're on the brink of something bigger, the energies can get denser to hold you back. And so sometimes you'll get this anxiety, this fear, whatever. You may not be able to um, name the fear, but the anxiety will tell you that you're afraid of something. And a lot of times that would knock me back down. I would say, no, I'm anxious. This is too much. I'm just going back to hideout, right? And so then I realized that, and I would still do the work, the healing, the whatnot. But the time came when I finally had this aha moment is that I need to push through this, not give into it.
right.
Because the minute you push through it, universe meets you right there and it propels you just a little more up.
Mm,
And then there's that other fear that, holds you back, pushes back, like, can I do this? Can I not? Should I do this? Should I not? And then you do it anyways. And then universe meets you right there and propels you. So unfortunately, nothing will be ever done for you because of that simple law of free will, right?
right.
Nobody can do, and we are in this 3D, 4D reality where things need to, it's in a, it has, there has to be some action. You can't just manifest right there. Everything is beautiful and angelic. And, in your meditations, you see it all, you see 1,000 lifetimes in just one 30-minute meditation. But here you actually have to move. You actually have to put the work and move through some density, move through some uncomfortable situations to be able to get there.
Mhm.
And that's where the reward is, because the minute you do, the minute you push forward, the minute you take that bold step, universe simply just matches your energy.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. So I hear you say that it's important to believe in yourself and just do what feels right.
Mhm.
Just do what feels right and keep doing it. Even though you feel fear, which a lot of the times is going to confuse you with anxiety, then you just have to keep doing. And how do you tell people that believe in yourself, the result is right there, or what you want is right there, even though they're not seeing it?
Well, they say the purpose of how do they say it? The purpose of life is to find your gift. No, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. And
Mm,
so if you did enough work to find your gift, you may not see how to give it away. That was my sort of extra year on the couch where I was like, okay, I'm kind of clear what I need to do, but how do I do it? And it was very important. The medium for me was very important because I was very clear on the things I didn't want to do. I did not want to open another business with the door. I did not want to be tied to a routine, to a schedule, to a location. I did not want to deal with construction and what, like there were certain things that I've been there, done that, and I knew very well. And that's actually a very good place to start. What is it that you don't want to do? Your
right.
soul knows very well what's feeling like this, right?
So you're talking about the salt room.
And that this is just one of them, right? So because I knew there was a next phase for me and I just didn't want to open another soul room. It was just
And
not,
fair enough, because it,
it's
it can be very exhausting.
it's three and done, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you have 3 locations here in the valley.
Yeah. And so I actually I took my time, and I think it's important to take your time because you don't need to rush life, okay? You can take your time and figure out what is it exactly that you want to do and how you want to do it. Because the minute you hit the nail, the minute you hit that chord, it's gonna feel really good.
Mhm.
It's gonna feel like I got it. This is it.
Mhm.
Right. And yet it may still seem and feel overwhelming because, your dream may be bigger than you think and imagine.
Mhm.
But just figure out how to make that next step and don't worry about it because there's no rush to become anything, to do anything. That's the ego that wants to know, that wants to get big, that wants to be
Right.
famous and whatnot. The soul is not interested in any of that. The soul just wants to feel joy and feel fulfilled and feel peace.
For
And so
sure.
as long as what you do brings you that satisfaction and peace, I think you're very much on the right track.
Definitely. I love it. I love it. And you touched on another very good point. The purpose that we come here for the on this earth is to really feel joy and have a joyful and fulfilled life. So what's the first step? What's the first tip we can give our listeners as to how to figure that out or start taking steps towards that?
Learn about yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, the best work you can do on this earth, I feel like, is learning about yourself,
Mhm.
finding out who you are, what you're here to do, and what brings you joy. Because chances are your purpose, your smooth sail in life lays right there.
Mhm.
Without learning to know, and when I say know yourself, I mean spend enough time with yourself where you know every sensation, what that means for you. Because I can't come and tell you if you're feeling this sensation in your lower back, chances are you feel betrayed. That may be true for me, but it may not be true
Right.
for you. So
Right.
it's important to learn every feeling, every movement, every you know interaction, how it affects your soul. And it's such a gentle and somatic experience, this life, that we're just too used to this program of rushing, racing, achieving. If we just shed and step back and take time, oh my god, like this was the hardest thing for me to do, is take time and step away from. I was the type, not type A, I was type triple A. And for me to stop and pause, I was very uncomfortable, and it will be in the beginning, and you have to move through that discomfort because you can never learn yourself in a rush. These
Right.
things require time, because if we were allowed to do this as children, we would grow up very self-aware. But unfortunately, we were plugged into an agenda as children, and as adults we're simply just on autopilot of what we learned.
Mhm.
So it's extremely important to deprogram yourself and go back to basics. What
Mhm.
makes me feel good? What food do I like to eat? What food makes me bloated? Which food makes me feel good? Which friend evokes good feelings in me, and which friend evokes not so good feelings in me? Which work brings me joy, and which one makes me tense? Which ones can I do seemingly hours on end or learn about hours on end, even when I'm tired, because these are things that are important. Once you learn yourself, you'll figure out what your soul wants. You give it to yourself. And this
Mhm.
is the portion of self-love. If you don't self-love, you can never give the world the best of you. You can never give the world any part of you
For sure.
because you're too exhausted and you don't want to see anybody anymore. So once you make yourself happy, is a very flat word in my opinion,
Yeah.
but satisfied, content, um,
Fulfilled.
aware, huh?
Fulfilled?
Fulfilled. Yeah, just overall, you can never be happy all day long. I mean, nobody walks around happy-go-lucky all day long. That's just such a misconception.
Mhm.
Even the joy, like you don't always feel exhilarated joy all the time. But there's this feeling of peace and contentment that you can't, it's unparalleled to any other feeling. I would, if I would trade all my feelings for one feeling, would be content.
That's
Because
wonderful. Yeah.
that peace of contentment is just, so it's like you don't feel the need to be something you're not, to do something you don't want to do. It's just an amazing place to be. And from that place, once you've loved yourself and learned yourself enough, then you can give the excess, because now you're like full content. Our natural state is to want to give
Yeah.
if we're fulfilled.
Yeah.
So if we're loving ourselves, there's no reason why we don't love the neighbor.
True. And what do you think about the word courage? Like, does it take courage to be authentic? Because we live in a world of social media and we see people doing this and that. And, a lot of people want to be like others, they want to fit in. So, do you think that to be yourself is required courage?
I mean, it takes a lot of courage, even especially for women. I'd like to say, it took me a lot of courage to not finally, blow dry my hair and not color it,
Mhm,
because I hated myself through the process for a few years because I was on this journey to be authentically me and to embrace myself and love myself just the way I am. But let's face it, we're all women. We all want to look like that next, Instagram model. We all want to look in the mirror and, feel good.
mhm,
And it's so hard when there's so much bombarding you of what is beautiful.
mhm. Yeah.
And you can say it all you want that you think you're beautiful, and but every one of us women have this underlying small voice that looks at you in the mirror and finds that one thing that's not beautiful. So imagine trying to completely change from having a blonde balayage with a blowout always and with a full-on makeup and heels to somebody that refused to look good for anybody else but myself. And for myself, I realized that I did not enjoy sitting in salons hours on end to get my hair done. I did not enjoy sitting in salons hours on end to get my nails done. I did not enjoy walking on heels. And I did not, and there's so many things. When I took myself off autopilot, I said, why? Look how many hours we're talking. Do you realize how many hours a week we're talking to just look good, seemingly?
Mhm.
Who are we doing? Who are we looking good for?
Right. And how
So
are we feeling? And right? How does looking good make us feel good? Or
yes, because
does
if the underlying meaning behind this looking good is to please somebody else's eyes,
yeah,
do you really love yourself, right?
right.
Or are you really living your life for the Jones, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So it took it was a long journey coming back home to me, I tell you that. It took years for me to shed all of this um ideas and everybody would look at my older picture. I'm like, oh my gosh, you look so good in this. And it doesn't feel good to hear it because I want to know that I look good now. I don't want to
Yeah.
know that everybody's like, why don't you do your hair like that? It looks so good. I'm like, because that's not me. And I don't enjoy the process of getting the hair done and 40 minutes of blowout every time. It's not pleasant.
Mhm,
And I wanted to really capitalize on this rest of my life by creating moments that bring me joy
mhm.
and eliminating the ones that don't. Because essentially, what's happiness? People have this illusion about happiness. Happiness is simply moments of joy, moments of happiness. So if I'm spending 80% of my time doing things that don't bring me joy, how do I expect to be happy?
Right.
So just become friends with the why. Why am I doing this? Why do I need this? Why? The why will actually become a really good guiding friend,
Mhm.
because you'll see most of the things you do, if you ask the question why, there's no reason, there's no good reason for it.
Yeah, and to your point, happiness is, in my opinion, a state of mind.
Mm.
You're either happy or you're not happy. It's like being pregnant. You're pregnant or you're not pregnant, right?
Black or white, come
Black or
on.
white. So being happy doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments of sadness. You're
And
not
sad.
going to have moments of anger or fear. It doesn't mean anything. And when you're unhappy in that mindset of unhappy, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments of joy. The thing is, these moments are not going to last.
And being okay,
And
being
be okay with it. And
okay.
your the ability to bounce back from these,
Mhm.
feeling when you have the happy state of mind, the happiness state of mind, these feelings of fear, you're able to bounce back faster than if you were in an unhappy state of mind. So I think happiness and unhappiness is really a mindset.
It truly is, and it's also a spectrum. You can't know one without the other.
Right.
How do you
True.
expect to always be happy if you never knew what sad was?
Correct.
And what
That's
goes
so
up has to come
true.
down, right?
That is so true.
I mean, if you don't, we are here literally on this earth to experience things,
Yeah.
experience feelings, experience emotions and situations. And, at some point I just stopped questioning, I stopped because I realized that I don't know why, but my soul chose to try every single spectrum out there.
Mhm.
And literally from everything, from like, I don't know, from weight going back and forth, from smoking and not smoking, from living in this country and that country, from being extremely happy and extremely sad. It's just all of these spectrums. And at some point, I was like, you know what? Bring it on. Let's see what else you got. It's just an experience, right? Like it's not going to last forever. And a lot of times it's extremely agonizingly uncomfortable. But guess what? Knowing that at the other end, you're going to just look back and be like, this was intense.
Yeah,
but but did you die?
exactly. Yeah, and be okay with the fluidity of life because
Yeah.
everything changes all the time. One day we wake up, wow, I'm gonna do this,
And
right?
do it. And
Yeah,
do
then
it.
do it exactly. And then the next day you're like, I don't want to go, I don't want to wake
Then
up.
don't.
And don't wake up.
It's
Just
that
hey,
simple. It's
yeah.
that simple. Yeah.
So how do we tell our listeners here that it's okay to just be on your flow?
Mm. I think a lot of this comes, the self-love is the name of the game, yes. But I feel like the opposite of that is self-criticism.
Mm,
If we can just work with our inner critic and persuade it, we can't get rid of it, right? Because it's always going to be there. We have to make friends with it, okay? The
yeah,
inner
yeah.
critic is our friend because it's trying to protect us from what's not right for us, right? But sometimes it's overprotective. So what we need to do is just make friends with it and be friends with the okay. Okay. So it's okay for this to happen. It's okay we made this mistake. It's okay because that's how we grow. We can't grow without making mistakes. So
Right.
if we can just embrace this inner critic and sort of calm it down and tame it down a little bit, where maybe even retire it on a beach with a Mai Tai, that would be ideal. But sometimes it comes rushing back when situation heightens,
Right.
right? So if we can just say, hey, like you said, I woke up this morning and I really wanted to have a slow day, but I'm feeling all this energy. Then go do whatever, surge you got to do. Go do it. And the next morning, because we know the next morning you might wake up and say, you know what, this is exhausting. I'm not doing this. Then don't take a day, but don't quit on life. Okay. Take the day off, take the week off, take the year off. If you have to take 3 years off, just don't quit on life because you can't rush or not do your soul journey. You're going to do it either way. Just don't try to put labels around it. Everything is okay. Every feeling is okay. Every mistake is okay. Life just happens. It's okay. Don't judge yourself on top of that.
Right, because I mean that's harsh enough, right?
Yeah, life
Yeah,
is not easy enough. Don't judge yourself for going through it.
exactly. So what would you say to the people that are listening and they're like, yeah, but I have a 9 to 5 job that I have to go to every day, and I have this obligation and that obligation. I can't just like take it easy and wake up and do nothing if I don't want to. What would you say to these people?
I mean, we've all been there. You kind of create the life that you want. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
But if you have a job that's absolutely not making you happy, you're probably in the wrong place. So start changing today.
Ah,
Start finding that
love
spark
that.
of joy today. You may not be able to quit the job tomorrow. I didn't quit my job when I started my business. So, I had to kind of make this transition. I had to hire somebody to work for me while I made the paycheck to pay them.
Mhm.
It's not an easy process. I'm not saying it's an easy process, but the reward is so much better than forever wasting your life on something that doesn't bring you joy. It is just that is the worst jail you can put your soul into.
I love that. So what you're saying is v- have a vision of what you want, the kind of life that you desire, and
And
kind
take the
of
next
plan
step.
it out and kind of plan it out. So, okay, what do I have to do to get there? Right? I have to understand who I am, what I want, or what I don't want. Bless you, what I don't want. And okay, I know what I don't want. That's great. How do I feel about this? Okay. And so just like really taking it step by step.
Just find it. When I used to feel very overwhelmed, and I realized that there's two causes for overwhelm. I mean, it's several, but one is perfectionism because I wanted everything and I want it now and in a perfect way. It just doesn't happen that way, right? And so perfectionism was one of my problems that stopped me a lot. Self-criticism, judgment, who am I to do this, was another that would stop me a lot of times in the tracks. But what I've learned from friends, from other people, from life itself, is that when in doubt and overwhelmed, just take the next step.
Mhm.
They say, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? So Just take the next step and don't worry about what that's going to bring. Just do it. Take
Yeah.
the next step. If you fail, great. You'll take that next step a year later, but never stop progressing just because you're afraid, you're tired, you're not. Just take one step, take two steps, take whatever direction. And sometimes it could be you're so overwhelmed that your personal life and your work life and your relationship, everything is just like a mess. Pick one direction that you can have control over.
Mhm.
Like yourself, your body,
Mhm.
right? It's easy because sometimes we feel fat, we're struggling in a relationship, we hate our job, like with all of it's overwhelming. How do you tackle that elephant all in one time? How do you become happy tomorrow? You can't. So
Right.
let's say you don't have control over changing your job right now. Okay, keep it in the back burner and look for it. If you don't have a, control over family health issues, I get it. One thing you have control over, let's say that bothers you, is your weight seemingly. Start implementing small habits to improve your health and your weight. Okay. Because once you feel empowered in a very small area in your life, that will trickle into other areas. Start organizing your house, your room in a way that brings you joy. So that start implementing one extra habit that brings you joy. Let's say you're taking this coffee to go every morning, go 5 minutes early and enjoy this coffee on the nice, patio or something for 5 minutes. Give yourself those moments of joy, those small little habits that could transform over time. And once that becomes a tradition, once that sort of settles in, you can tackle on the next one. Again, there's no rush to get there.
Mhm.
You can realize your potential at 60 and change the world at 62. I believe that
Yeah,
100%.
for sure. So it's stop living your life in a sense of urgency, right? Because people
Mhm.
think everything is an emergency, and that's why they don't let go of their phones. They don't let go of, whatever it is that they're attached to, addicted to.
I used to be that way. I used to think that everything's an emergency, everything needs to be tackled today, now. And if I'm sitting on the couch for 5 minutes, I am bad, I'm lazy, I need to move, I'm not productive. That was the home wrecker, really.
Mm.
But I didn't realize, you don't realize this until much later, until you actually, start on purpose being lazy.
Love it.
And nothing is really an emergency. At some point in life, I decided to put my phone on a complete silent, not vibrate, but silent.
Yeah, I noticed because I text you a lot of times, and the answer
Yeah.
only
And I
comes
don't
2 days.
respond till about 15, 20 minutes later, sometimes an hour.
Yeah.
And here's a reason for that, because for a moment in my life, every message that came through, every call that came through required my 100% attention all the time. And none of it was positive. Everything was fix it, put a fire down, fix it, put a fire down. And I realized that from just the phone ringing, I would get anxiety.
Mm,
From just it vibrating, my entire body would vibrate
mm,
because I knew I had to do something that I didn't want to do. And
mhm.
so that was a conscious decision I made years ago. I put my phone on a complete silence and I told myself there's nothing in this world that you cannot get to in 20 minutes.
Right.
You can't, like, obviously, I always have my phone, right? It's not anywhere, it's here. But if I didn't see you call, I was probably just looking a different direction. It's still there. I'll see it. I'll call back within minutes, if worst, an hour if I decided to meditate.
Yeah, so
And
really taking your time to pay attention to how you're feeling,
mm,
who you really are, connecting to your true self, and doing what's next, being present with life, being present with yourself.
yeah, being present with every single one of your emotions.
Very good, very good. All right, we're gonna start wrapping it up. Do you have any final words of advice to who's listening to us?
Oh boy.
Because I
I
know
think
you have a lot to say.
I know, right? We can talk about, because this is a topic. It's like a life topic. You can talk about it for forever,
Yeah,
forever. It
yeah.
never stops because there's always whatever we say, there's layers to it, right?
Uh-huh.
It starts at one little seed and then it sort of grows from there. But the only thing I would say, just you deserve to be happy. You're loved, you deserve to be loved, and you deserve to be happy. Don't ever tolerate something that's draining your soul. It's just not okay. You'll do the world a service by just doing that.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Ava. And what I take from today is that I chose the right person to come to talk about self-love and what really sparked the curiosity in me is how the feeling of jealousy can be really your soul calling you to do something bigger.
Mm.
That was really what I took out of the whole conversation. That's what really stood out for me. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your light, your love, and pouring into us and into yourself and into this beautiful community that we live in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very, very honored and excited for this journey for you.
Thank you, Ava. See you next time.
Bye.